Chapter 91. 91. Addicted to the warmth. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 91. Addicted to the warmth. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Looking at the book that was forcefully taken away, Lu Miao felt helpless. Mr. Gu was really domineering. However, where could he get Bird's Nest at this time? Gu Shiyan did not stay in the room for long. After putting down his things, he turned around and left. When he reached the door, he took Gu Jinsi, who was about to enter, away. Gu Jinsi did not dare to say anything. He could only be angry in his heart. His second brother must be jealous that his second sister. Law gave him special treatment and even talked and laughed with him alone. Humph! What a petty man! The next morning, when Lu Miao went downstairs after washing up, the dining table was already filled with all kinds of breakfast. Gu Shiyan had an emergency meeting and left first. Gu Jinsi, who had always liked to sleep in, woke up early. At the dining table, he told her about the surveillance video and the driving data. If the organizing committee refused to give it to them, no one could say anything. The accident report came straight out, stating that Shen Muhan did not handle the car properly, causing the car to flip over when it turned the corner. Lu Miao lowered her eyes slightly and looked at the report that Gu Jinsi had sent her. It didn't show her any footage and the driving data, but gave her the results directly. On the other end of the phone, Gu Jinsi was also a little puzzled. Logically speaking, these things should be made public. I don't know why the organizing committee refused to release it. However, there should be a drone recording the live broadcast for the people in the venue. I'll ask someone to see if there's a screen recording. No need. Lu Miao said directly. She originally thought that since Gu Jinsi could get it directly, she could not be bothered to waste her time. Since the other party was unwilling to give it to her, she would take it herself. After the meal, Lu Miao went straight upstairs to her room. 10 minutes later, the video of Shen Muhan's accident was playing clearly on her computer screen. Before the accident, he had been leading by dozens of meters. As the car reached the final turn, it suddenly, without any warning, veered off and collided with the stone wall beside the racetrack. It rebounded and flipped in the air twice before landing heavily and flipping several more times before finally coming to a stop. Lu Miao squinted her eyes, clearly noting that the trajectory was abnormal. She paused the video and looked at the image frame by frame. In the second before his car overturned, a slender black object shot rapidly from behind and aimed at Shen Muhan's wheels. This object was needle-like, small and thin, and incredibly fast. In the fast-paced racing video, if Lu Miao hadn't paused and analyzed the frames, she wouldn't have noticed it at all. Someone was resorting to foul play when they couldn't win the race. She pulled out the information of the contestants behind him and glanced at it. Jin Chen, the second son of the Jin family in Beijing. Lu Miao sneered. No wonder he didn't dare to release the video. Jin Chen's father is the district mayor of a district in Beijing. Although the position may not sound high, Beijing is different from other places, and considering the intricate relationships involved, even a provincial leader would greet the district mayor respectfully. The Shen family was in business, while the Jin family was in politics. In comparison, the organizing committee naturally wouldn't dare to offend the Jin family. Even if they suspected something unusual about the accident, they would pretend to know nothing and might even help cover it up. If she were to expose this directly, it could potentially have an impact on the Shen family as well. Lu Miao lowered her eyes slightly, took out her phone, changed the number, and sent a message. 2 minutes later, Gu Jinsi's screams and cheers came from downstairs. Ha ha ha, Goddess Cause signed up for the competition. Great, I can finally see her. Lu Miao got up, packed her things, and went downstairs. Gu Jinsi immediately rushed up and said excitedly, second sister. Law, Goddess just signed up for tomorrow's elimination round. Do you want to watch it with me? No, I still have to go to school. Lu Miao remained calm. Gu Jinsi smiled in embarrassment. Oh, I forgot. Second sister. Law, I'll send you off. Lu Miao rejected him and left after waving goodbye. The elimination rounds last for a total of 4 days, and the final match takes place on the 5th day. Jean Chen has already passed yesterday's elimination round with a first-place score. She wants to meet him in the competition, so she must first advance to the final through the elimination rounds. However, before the competition begins, she still needs to do some preparation work. At the Gu Corporation headquarters. In the conference room, the project manager was drenched in cold sweat after reporting his work. A project that the company had been discussing for a long time was snatched away because of a mistake in their department. As a result, all the preparations made by the company in the early stages were in vain, with estimated losses exceeding tens of millions. With trembling fear, he looked at the person in the middle of the conference room. Seeing him with lowered eyes and a solemn expression, his legs went weak with fright. After hesitating for a while, he finally gathered his courage and spoke up, Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu. Gu Shiyan finally moved. Looking at the computer screen showing 9 kinds of porridge for nourishing qi and blood, he raised his hand and typed a few times on the keyboard in front of him, saving the information. He looked around the meeting room. Is there anything else? Everyone immediately shook their heads. At such a critical moment, they didn't want to court death. Demote Lu Xin, cut the salaries of everyone in the project department for 3 months, meeting adjourned. After Gu Shiyan finished speaking, he took his laptop and stood up, heading back to his office. Tang Machen was already waiting in the office. When he saw Gu Shiyan enter, he whistled teasingly. In the past few years, Gu Shiyan spent 365 days a year, with 360 of them flying in the sky. He didn't consider himself a normal person, he was a true workaholic. He spent very little time in Luo City, and even less time at home. Recently, he had been staying in Luo City and returning home on time every day. It was the 9th miracle in the world. He chuckled and teased, is Mr. Gu obsessed with the beauty in his arms recently? Get lost. Gu Shiyan glared at him coldly. Have you been too free recently? Tang Machen almost spat blood and rolled his eyes. I'm busier than you. I don't know what kind of god that great master mountain river is. I'm almost bald, but I can't even find a trace of him. Let me tell you, you have to treat me to a big meal today to make it up to me. Thinking of Lu Miao, he smiled and said, let's have dinner together tonight with your wife. Gu Shiyan didn't even look up. He picked up the pen on the side and threw it at Tang Machen. Tang Machen couldn't help but burst out with a curse. With quick reflexes, he hurriedly rolled off the couch. In the next second, a pen stabbed straight into the couch. Before he could say anything, Gu Shiyan started a countdown, 3, 2, forget friends when seeing beauty. Tang Machen shouted fearlessly. Before the countdown ended, he quickly dashed out of the office. Chapter 92. 92, Heartless Meow Meow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. Heartless Meow Meow. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Gu Shiyan cancelled his business dinner and got off work on time to go back to Lingyue Manor. When he entered, he saw Gu Ziheng sitting in the living room with a nervous expression. Gu Jinsi, on the other hand, widened his eyes in anger. He crossed his arms and sat opposite him aggressively. It was as if he wanted to kill him with his gaze. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the two of them looked in the direction of the door at the same time. Seeing that it was him and not Lu Miao, Gu Jinsi pursed his lips and retreated back onto the sofa in disappointment. Gu Ziheng heaved a sigh of relief. After knowing that Lu Miao had used her own blood as a medicinal ingredient for him, he was completely won over by her. He wanted to see Lu Miao and apologize to her immediately, but he was afraid of seeing her. He did not know how to apologize in a way that she would accept. Shen Qinghe poked her head out of the kitchen to take a look. She greeted him and went back to the kitchen. Gu Shiyan walked around the two on the sofa and went straight upstairs. No wonder Gu Jinsi would let Gu Ziheng in. It turned out that he had come with Shen Qinghe. Bailey had already sent his clothes and supplies over as instructed. He went upstairs to change his clothes before going down. Gu Ziheng was already sitting there uncomfortably. When he saw that he had finally come over, he called out softly, "Second brother." Gu Shiyan hummed. He didn't say a single word, nor did he reprimand him. But this made Gu Ziheng feel even more uneasy and uncomfortable. He looked up at Gu Shiyan and took a deep breath. He mustered his courage and said, "Second brother, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have allowed Xingyu to treat Lu Miao like that. I really didn't mean to throw a tantrum at her yesterday. I just wanted to calm Xingyu down for the time being and then slowly explain to her. I didn't want to hurt her. I'm not the one you should be apologizing to." Gu Shiyan's voice was warm and cold. "Your fault is not whether you threw a tantrum at her or whether you used any delaying tactics. It lies in not personally understanding a person or a situation and choosing to blindly believe others' words. This shows a complete lack of responsibility, both towards yourself and others. 2 years ago, you trusted the people around you and drank that poisoned water, causing your throat to go bad. I thought you would learn your lesson. It has been 2 years, but you didn't learn at all. You've made the same mistake again." Gu Ziheng's body stiffened instantly, unable to believe what he was hearing. He stuttered, "Second brother, are you saying that the poison was given to me by my manager?" Shortly after the incident, his manager terminated their contract and moved to another popular actor's agency. He had occasionally doubted and suspected it in his heart, but ultimately chose to believe otherwise. Later, that manager was exposed in a scandal with the mentioned artist, and both of them were forced to leave the industry. He didn't think much of it at the time. Now that he thought about it, it was actually second brother who was avenging him. It turned out that he had been the one who had been naive all along. Second brother, by trusting others, indulging Xingyu, and hurting Miao Miao, you will be punished with 20 strikes of the disciplinary ruler in the ancestral hall. Reflect for a week. Do you have any objections? Gu Shiyan looked at him indifferently. No, I don't. Gu Ziheng shook his head. Whether it was trusting someone around him and being harmed 2 years ago or trusting Gu Xingyu and hurting Lu Miao 2 years later, he truly deserved the punishment. He stood up, about to leave and accept his punishment. Also, Miao Miao is your second sister. In law and your elder. It's disrespectful for a junior to call an elder by her name. You will receive an additional punishment of 10 strikes of the disciplinary ruler. Gu Shiyan paused for a moment. She has already given you a chance. In the future, unless she is willing, you can never mention the medicine to her. Gu Ziheng nodded with a pale face. I understand, second brother. Compared to receiving the disciplinary strikes and reflecting on his mistakes in the ancestral hall, this final punishment was the heaviest for him. Even though he desperately wanted to treat his throat, his second brother was right. His second sister. In law had already given him a chance, but he did not cherish it. Now that second brother was punishing him like this, even if his voice could not recover for the rest of his life, he deserved it. You should go back first and come back after receiving your punishment. Gu Shiyan spoke. Gu Ziheng left in a daze. Back when his throat was damaged, he had also experienced breakdowns and suffered in agony, drinking alcohol and getting drunk every day. Now, suddenly discovering that he had been betrayed and manipulated by the person he once trusted the most, it would be false to say that he wasn't feeling any sadness. Shen Qinghe washed her hands and came out of the kitchen. She had heard everything Gu Shiyan had just said. She had no objections to Gu Ziheng's punishment. She simply reminded him, I had Auntie Shio prepare some nourishing food for Meow Meow. When she comes back from school, make sure she eats it. This child just can't seem to gain weight, and you two are here, so try not to rely on takeout all the time. If necessary, I'll have Auntie Shio come over. Got it. I'm already looking for a nanny. Gu Shiyan replied. Shen Qinghe repeatedly reminded him. Before she went out, she poked Gu Shiyan's arm. She raised her hand to cover her mouth and whispered, Meow Meow is the daughter-in-law I've chosen. If you can't settle this, then stay single for the rest of your life. Gu Shiyan was speechless. When Lu Miao returned home from school, Shen Qinghe had already left with Gu Ziheng. She did not know that Gu Shiyan had punished Gu Ziheng for her. However, during dinner, she felt that this dish was a little familiar. She thn what for a moment and said, Thank Ontai Shen for me, I'm fine here, tell her not to worry. Gu Shiyan raised his hand and used his fingers to wipe away the slight grease on the corner of her lips. He raised his eyebrows. I helped you clean up and take care of your food and drink every day. Why don't you thank me? You can go back and not take care of me, Lu Miao replied mercilessly. Gu Shiyan. As expected, she was still as heartless as ever. It was rare for Gu Jinsi to see his second brother being defeated, so he laughed gloatingly at his misfortune. Lu Miao turned to look at him. I'm fine living alone. She had finally found an excuse to move out. Now, these two people were clinging to her side. What was going on? Gu Jinsi shut up decisively and pretended not to hear anything. He obediently reached out and picked up a fresh bamboo shoot with his chopsticks and placed it in Lu Miao's bowl. After dinner, Lu Miao greeted Gu Shiyan and the others before returning to her room, leaving the task of washing the dishes to the two young masters. The order of the first elimination round was arranged according to the registration time. The order of the first round of elimination races was arranged according to the time of registration. Lu Miao's race was scheduled for the afternoon. She attended classes in the morning, and after school, she asked for leave from her homeroom teacher. Seeing that she was about to leave, Su Mo quickly said, Boss. Lu Miao looked up at her as she packed her things. What's the matter? Su Mo hesitated for a moment, her words swirling in her mouth, but in the end, she simply said, It's nothing, I just wanted to ask about Shen Muhan's situation. He will be fine, Lu Miao reassured her. Su Mo nodded heavily, Okay, I believe you. If boss said it would be fine, then it would definitely be fine. After Lu Miao left the school, she found a place to change her clothes and put on her makeup before heading to the competition venue. Chapter 93. 93, High.Profile Confession. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. High.Profile Confession. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. This kind of race, especially the early elimination rounds, doesn't attract much attention from the public. Lu Miao initially planned to quickly finish the race and leave. However, as soon as she entered the racetrack, she was surprised to see a sea of people. Many of them had a small red support logo painted on their faces. She could also spot several media workers carrying cameras. Lu Miao almost thought she had mistakenly entered a concert venue for some famous star. She was puzzled and exited to double-check the signage at the entrance. Once she confirmed she was in the right place, she re-entered the venue. The participating racers needed to go to the registration desk first, sign in, and collect their number plates and racing equipment. With her hat, sunglasses, and mask, Lu Miao went unnoticed upon entering. She headed straight to the signing area and showed the staff behind the table her registration code on her phone. After the staff member scanned the equipment and saw the information that popped up on the computer screen, he immediately exclaimed. Curious, Lu Miao approached and glanced at the information on the screen. Is there a problem? Oh my god, you are Q. The staff member asked excitedly and loudly. Lu Miao nodded, yes, it's me. Oh my god, goddess. I'm QQ Candies, your fan. The staff member exclaimed with extreme excitement. Fans of Queer collectively known as QQ Candies. The staff member rolled up his sleeves excitedly and showed her the red circular symbol drawn on his arm. This is the symbol of our fan support group. Look, those people in the stands with the emblem painted on their faces and bodies are all your fans. They flew here overnight from other places as soon as they heard you were participating today. We all love you. When Lu Miao entered earlier, she only took a quick glance and didn't pay much attention. But now, at a close distance, she could clearly see the red circular emblem, which was a stylized Q. She had only competed a few times under Q's name in the beginning to earn money. It had been a long time since she had paid attention to racing. She didn't expect that all these people would come because of her. Lu Miao, who just wanted to keep a low profile and leave quickly, was speechless. Goddess, that S.bend you took in the second race was incredible, and you even broke the world record directly. The staff member, finally encountering the long-lost superstar, went crazy with excitement, spewing out endless flattery. There were already many media personnel present in the venue today, and everyone was eagerly awaiting the appearance of the world record breaker. The commotion caught the attention of nearby media, who immediately rushed over with their cameras. Hello, Q, can you share your thoughts on breaking the world record? Hello, have you ever considered becoming a professional race car driver? Why do you cover your face and refuse to show your true identity? More and more reporters gathered around her, and the cameras almost hit her race. Lu Miao was expressionless. This was why she hated being high-profile. After receiving her things from the staff, she walked straight to the locker room. Q's arrival caused a sensation in the audience. Lu Miao changed her clothes and went to the waiting area. The screams of the fans were deafening. Among them, there was one voice that stood out. Goddess Q, brave and soaring, QQ Tang will always be with you. Goddess, goddess, you are unrivaled. Why did that voice sound so familiar? And the familiar catchphrases with a touch of Chunibyu syndrome. Lu Miao turned her head and looked in the direction of the voice. She saw Gu Jinsi. His face and hands were covered in red Q symbols. He was holding a megaphone and shouting excitedly at her. When he saw her turn around, he instantly shouted even louder. Even the surrounding fans began to follow suit and shout slogans crazily. Lu Miao couldn't help but twitch her brow and silently turned her head, pretending she hadn't heard anything. She felt like she had given Gu Jinxin too little homework. This guy was just too idle. When she returned home today, she would definitely give him double the amount of homework. Her match was scheduled for the last match in the afternoon. After everyone in front of her had competed, it was finally her group's turn. There were so many people here today because the organizers had deliberately publicized her registration. Now that it was her turn, the organizers directly pointed the camera at her, and her magnified face instantly appeared on the big screen. Even though she was wearing sunglasses and a mask, it was difficult to completely cover her exquisite facial features. The racing suit added a touch of unique charm to her, contrasting with her cool and powerful aura yet harmoniously coexisting. She seemed like a bewitching black rose atop a cloud, captivating from afar but untouchable. Among the competitors in her group, one was so mesmerized by her that they forgot to start. Another competitor, overwhelmed by nerves, veered off the track midway. Without any surprises, Lu Miao secured first place and advanced to the final round. Time was running late, and she didn't have much time to stay here. Moreover, Gu Jinsi was still around, and she wanted to leave before him and go home. She got out of the car and quickly went to the changing room to change her clothes. Wait a minute. Lu Miao turned around. A few young men were standing not far behind her, sizing her up. In the middle was a man with a rebellious silver hair, none other than Jin Chen, whom she had seen in the information before. He had already made it to the final through the elimination rounds yesterday, and Lu Miao hadn't expected to encounter him here today. Her eyes narrowed slightly behind her sunglasses. What is it? Jean Chen leaned against the doorway, his eyes filled with interest as he looked her up and down. He smirked, I've heard of the great Q goddess for a long time. Would you honor me by having a drink together? No, Lu Miao responded directly without any courtesy. She turned to leave. However, the group of guys behind Jean Chen quickly moved, blocking her path and preventing her from leaving. One of them with black earrings looked at her with disdain. Do you know who you're talking to? Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Lu Miao was speechless. Had he read too many novels? Is it popular for men to mimic a domineering CEO now? Seeing her standing there without saying a word, Jean Chen thought that she was frightened. He was very considerate. He opened his mouth and said, Su Laosi, don't scare her. Then, he stepped forward and extended his hand to Lu Miao. He smiled and said, I'm Jean Chen, from Beijing. Although he didn't reveal his identity in detail, the word Beijing were enough. He believed that Qua's smart and knew what to do. Unexpectedly, Lu Miao did not give him any face at all. If you have something to say, say it. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Now was not the time to deal with him. There would be plenty of opportunities in the finals. Gu Jinsi was so passionate about Q. If he left late, she would definitely bump into him later. Jean Chen looked at his hand that was hanging in the air, and the interest in his eyes became even stronger. Chapter 94. 94, Dream Lover. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. Dream Lover Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. He had heard of Q's name when he was in Beijing, and he had specially watched her competition videos. Unlike many other girls who were only interested in racing for fun, Q had real talent when it came to racing. Whether it was her impeccable racing skills, her stunning physique, or her mysterious appearance that had never been revealed, she was enough to captivate anyone. Almost all the men in the racing circle had fallen under her spell, completely infatuated with her. Today's scene at the racetrack was evidence of that. He had also asked someone to investigate Q's true identity, but this woman was too mysterious and did not leave any clues behind. He had originally planned to return to the capital after the race yesterday but decided to stay when he heard she had registered. Unexpectedly, this woman had more personality than he had imagined. She did not care about his identity at all. However, this was also good. It was much more interesting than the other women who only wanted to cling to him. He slowly retracted his hand and raised his lips in a smug smile. I wanted to find a place to have a good chat with Q Goddess, but since you're so straightforward, I won't beat around the bush either. Be my girlfriend or withdraw from the competition. Lu Miao was speechless. Do you know what an overcon.ori man is? Jean Chen raised his eyebrows. What's that? I know, young Master Jean. The man called Su Laosi immediately came up and explained proudly, she's insulting you as an ordinary and overconfident man. Shut up, you idiot. Su Laosi felt wronged. He didn't understand. He was just trying to explain. What did he do wrong? Since you don't know what's good for you, then, Jean Chen deliberately paused. It's going to be more difficult. He was determined to win first place in this race. Now, Qua's his biggest competitor. He couldn't bear to ruin such a wonderful woman through such means during the competition. Boss Jean, why waste time talking to her? When dealing with disobedient women like her, just drag her to bed and *ck her. Another man beside him didn't bother to hide his rudeness and said, one time isn't enough, do it twice, ha ha ha. The other men joined in with raucous laughter. Their gazes toward Lu Miao gradually became lewd. Clearly, they had done such things many times before and didn't care at all. Lu Miao didn't waste any words. She put down the bag with her clothes, flicked her wrist, and walked up to the group of men before they could make their obscene remarks. In a lightning-fast motion, she swiftly kicked the man on the far right, sending him flying. Then, she delivered a punch to the face of the man in the middle. Finally, she grabbed Su Laoxi's shoulders, pressed down forcefully, and with a swift knee strike to his lower abdomen, she fiercely collided with him. With a slight exertion of force, she flung him away. From the moment she started to the end, the entire process only took a few seconds. The three of them didn't even have time to react before they fell to the ground in pain, clutching different parts of their bodies. The first man who was kicked out was even kicked a few meters away. The intense pain rushed straight to their heads, making them unable to even scream in pain. Jean Chen's expression changed instantly. He looked at her with cold anger. "What do you mean? I'll teach you how to respect women," Lu Miao said as she walked towards him. Jean Chen looked at the three who had been kicked a few meters away and still could not make a sound. He hurriedly took 2 steps back. "What do you want?" Lu Miao stopped a few steps away, reached down to pick up the bag of clothes on the ground, and raised an eyebrow. "If you need, I can teach you separately." Though her action seemed light, every strike hit crucial spots, rendering those three unable to get out of bed for quite some time. Thinking of the place where Lu Miao had attacked them, Jean Chen felt a pain in his lower body. He subconsciously moved his hand forward to block it. He realized that his actions were a little. She hurriedly moved her hand to the side. Lu Miao said disdainfully, "Coward." This simple word was not particularly hurtful, but it carried a strong sense of insult that left him pinned to the ground, rubbing his body furiously. Jean Chen, who always had a high opinion of himself, turned green upon hearing those words. How could he have known that this woman, who appeared thin and weak, could strike so fiercely and possess such remarkable skill? In a fit of anger, he retorted, "Do you think I wouldn't dare to do anything to you? BL 111 Why wanting the weak on tearing the strong? What's so impressive about picking on women? If you have time for this, why not practice your skills so that you won't embarrass yourself on the racetrack? Instead of seeking validation from women after the race." Jean Chen struggled to come up with a comeback, but he couldn't find any coherent words. "Mr. Jean, I'll see you on the racetrack." With a meaningful tone, Lu Miao finished speaking and completely ignored him. She lifted her leg and walked directly towards the exit. Jean Chen stood in place, watching her retreating figure, his eyes flashing with a sinister look. What an ignorant fool. Initially, he had wanted to show some mercy when he saw such a beautiful woman, but since she didn't appreciate it, he wouldn't be polite either. Turning around, he noticed the 3 men still lying on the ground. Instantly, anger surged within him. He raised his leg and kicked the person beside him. Useless. There were too many people in the arena. In order to avoid being caught by the media and to avoid Gu Jinx, she had to be careful. Lu Miao decisively left through the back door of the arena. She changed back into her school uniform and removed her makeup before going home. Gu Jinxi was probably still waiting for to appear at the front of the arena. He only reached home after Lu Miao finished a set of practice questions. He was in a state of extreme excitement and rushed upstairs to tell her about how he had seen Tode. He even showed her the photo of Q that he had taken on the field. Lu Miao glanced at them briefly. Yes, the hat, sunglasses, and mask were all tightly secured. Even her own mother wouldn't recognize her. She made a perfunctory response, then turned back to her own business. Gu Jinxi didn't mind and happily played with his phone, giggling to himself. Gu Jinxi did not mind. He hugged his phone and giggled. This state continued until Gu Shiyan came back and sat at the dining table during dinner. "Second brother, let me tell you, my goddess Chi's really amazing. Her racing skills were first class, and she was so cool that she was invincible. Her skin was fair, and she had beautiful long legs. She was beautiful, talented, intelligent, and cool. She was definitely the ideal dream lover of all men in the world. Gu Jinsi held his phone impassively and was about to praise her a few more times. Gu Shiyan looked at Lu Miao, who was eating seriously beside him. No, she isn't. What isn't? Gu Jinsi asked in confusion. Chapter 95. 95, Double Standard. Mr. Gu, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. Double Standard. Mr. Gu. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, Dream Lover. Gu Shiyan reached out and picked up a spoon. He scooped a bowl of chicken soup and placed it in front of Lu Miao. Gu Jinsi reacted and chuckled. I know. Second brother's ideal dream lover is second sister. Law. Lu Miao glanced at him and reached out to pick up a chicken drumstick, mercilessly stuffing it into his mouth. Eat more. Even chickens don't talk as much as you. Gu Jinsi looked at Gu Shiyan sympathetically. Is it that second brother hasn't won over second sister. Law yet? Right. His second brother is really pitiful. Second sister. Law still doesn't like him even now. If this continues, he'll end up without a wife. Gu Shiyan immediately understood his gaze, and his face could not help but darken. This brat really needed to be disciplined. He even dared to laugh at him. He said coldly, the security at the training camp has been upgraded. Gu Jinsi was indignant. He hated it when people made threats to kids. He cowered back. But when he thought of his goddess, he couldn't help but feel happy. He took a big bite of the chicken drumstick, then slammed the table and shouted. I want to announce some good news to you all. Starting from today, I've decided to pursue our goddess. Cough, 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 cough. Lu Miao choked on the chicken soup in her mouth. Gu Shiyan quickly put down the chopsticks in his hand. He reached into the drawer and took out a tissue for her. Then, he raised his hand and patted her back gently. What's wrong? Is it awful? Stop drinking. Lu Miao waved her hand and coughed until her face turned red before she finally stopped. Gu Shiyan got up and poured a glass of water for her to rinse her mouth. Only then did he look up at Gu Jinsi. Nonsense. You're only 16. So what if I'm 16? Isn't second sister. Law also 16? Gu Jinsi pursed his lips and said unhappily. That's double standards. Gu Shiyan was speechless. Just as he was about to teach him a lesson, he glanced at the phone screen in Gu Jinsi's hand from the corner of his eye. It was a picture of Quaiding on the sidelines. She was wearing a red and white racing suit, and the brim of her cap was pressed very low. The big sunglasses covered her eyes and she was wearing a mask. Only half of his nose bridge could be seen on his face. Gu Shiyan inexplicably felt that the aura of the person in the photo gave him an indescribable strange feeling. He reached out and took the phone from Gu Jinsi's hands. He narrowed his eyes and looked at it carefully. Before he could see it clearly, Gu Jinsi snatched it back. This is my dream lover, my future girlfriend. Gu Shiyan didn't express any opinion on the matter and didn't snatch the phone back to have another look. Gu Jinsi grabbed his sleeve and carefully wiped the screen of his phone, giggling at the person on the screen. Hee, goddess, hee, mine. Then he carefully put away the phone. Lu Miao couldn't help but facepalm. Of all people, he had to pursue Q. She hoped he would never find out the cruel reality that she was Q. The next day was Saturday, the final day of the car racing championship elimination round, and the final race in Luo City was on Sunday. Saturday morning. Gu Jinsi, who usually loved to sleep in and never woke up early, unexpectedly left the house early in a secretive manner. As for Gu Shiyan, the workaholic, he had no concept of weekends. While others rested, he continued working. After greeting Lu Mo, he went straight to the company. After having breakfast, Lu Mo originally planned to leave directly. Looking at the school uniform she habitually wore, she went back upstairs again. In the walk-in closet, the latest clothing from various top brands almost filled the entire room. In addition, the middle display cabinet was filled with various jewelry and watches, while the right shelf was filled with bags and shoes. These were all sent by Gu Shiyan. Knowing that she might never wear or use them, he still bought them. Thinking about the countless times she was accused of being mistreated by Gu Shiyan, Mr. Gu was quite misunderstood. Lu Miao thought for a moment and picked out a white dress. She went directly to the hospital. Since her last conversation with him, Shen Muhan had stopped being decadent. Even though he was still lying on the hospital bed unable to move, his spirits were high. When he saw her, his eyes lit up. "Boss." When Mrs. Shen saw her coming, she happily greeted her and took the initiative to go out. Lu Miao stepped forward to check on Shen Muhan's injuries. Apart from the wound on his back that had been stitched with more than 30 stitches, the other external injuries had mostly scabbed over. "Boss, how is it?" "I've behaved well in the hospital these past few days and haven't moved recklessly. When do you think I can recover?" Shen Muhan looked at her with bright eyes, his face full of anticipation. "In a few more days, when the wound on your back has healed, you can start treatment," Lu Miao said directly. His external injuries had not fully recovered yet, so he could not do any recovery training at all. He could only wait. "Hee, all right." Shen Muhan replied happily without any doubts. After chatting with him for a while, Lu Miao was stopped by the doctor outside the door just as she walked out of the ward. "Miss, although I know that you said he can recover to give him the will to live, as his attending physician, I can tell you with certainty that his condition is 100% paralysis, and there is no possibility of recovery. Lies will be exposed one day, and now that you've given him hope, when that hope is shattered, he will be even more desperate than before." The doctor looked at her with a serious expression. If he had known from the beginning that he would be paralyzed, after the initial breakdown, he would gradually accept this fact. But at his most desperate moment, someone gave him hope, and if that hope is shattered, the impact on him will be catastrophic. Lu Mo replied calmly, "It's not a lie, I didn't deceive him." The doctor's expression turned unpleasant. This is something that experts both domestically and internationally have confirmed. When no one can treat him, can you? "Yes, I can treat him," Lu Mo nodded. The doctor sneered and said disdainfully, "Humph, you're young and yet so arrogant. It's a disease that experts from both domestic and international fields can't cure, and you, an elementary school student, dare to boast that you can cure it. I'd like to see how you treat him when the time comes." With that, the doctor turned and left directly. Lu Miao shook her head. From the perspective of Western medicine, Shen Muhan's condition was indeed very difficult to reverse. However, this was not the case in Chinese medicine. People nowadays blindly rely on Western medicine while neglecting the precious heritage of traditional Chinese medicine left by our ancestors. It's a pity. Lu Mo didn't pay much attention to the doctor's attitude. After leaving the hospital, it was already noon. She ate something casually outside, and just as she was about to take a taxi home, her phone in her pocket suddenly rang. Chapter 96. 96, his wife intercepted him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. His wife intercepted him. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation ENV. She took out her phone and saw that it was Lin Bufan. If he didn't have any urgent matters, he would usually contact her directly on the forum. Her fingertip pressed the call button. "Boss, I've got news about the 1,000-year tiger bone you asked me to find a few days ago. Jiada Auction House is holding an auction this afternoon, and they just released the information that one of the items up for auction is a 1,000-year tiger bone. I'm on my way to the auction house now, hoping to intercept it before the auction starts." Tigers were already endangered animals protected at a national level, and their bones were extremely rare. Finding a tiger bone that had been preserved for over 1,000 years was exceptionally uncommon. It was impossible to find them in medicinal markets or regular hospitals. When it appeared in the auction, the price was calculated in grams. She wasn't afraid that the price would be too high, but she was afraid that someone else would set their eyes on this thing and make a move before they did. Got it. Send me the address. 1,000-year tiger bone not only had remarkable effects in treating skeletal diseases, but it was also a sacred item for dispelling evil spirits. It was crucial for both Shen Muxian and for breaking the formation in the future. When Lu Miao arrived at the auction house, Lin Bufan was in his office discussing terms with the person in charge and the seller. When Luan Miao arrived at the auction house, Lin Bufan was in the office negotiating with the auction organizer and the seller. The Lin family was also a renowned and influential household in Luo City, so naturally, the auction organizer treated him with respect. Since the seller happened to be present as well, they were all brought into the office directly. Sorry, but I can't sell this tiger bone to you, the seller firmly stated, holding the box in their hands. Lin Bufan felt helpless. Miss Song, may I ask what you're dissatisfied with? Even if you put this item up for auction later, you'll still have to sell it. The seller shook his head. I'm sorry. Lin Bufan was having a headache. When he saw Lu Miao enter, he quickly stood up and went forward. Boss, you're here. The seller refused to sell. As soon as he finished speaking. It's you. Lu Miao looked in the direction of the voice and saw a pale and haggard young woman walking toward her with a surprised expression. Seeing that Lu Miao did not seem to remember, the woman quickly said, It's me, Song Yin. Thank you for saving my son at the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. Lu Miao did not pay much attention to her when she was saving her, so she did not recognize her immediately. You're welcome. You've already thanked me last time. Song Yin thought of Lin Bufan's words and knew that Lu Miao was the one who wanted to buy the tiger bone. She immediately turned around and took the box from the table and handed it to Lu Miao. Here, this is the 1,000-year-old tiger bone you need. Lu Miao really needed this item at the moment, so she did not reject it. How much is it? I'll transfer it to you. Song Yin shook her head. You saved my son's life last time, so I never had the chance to thank you. This is my gift to you. Naturally, Lu Miao would not accept it for free. Just as she was about to speak, Song Yin spoke first. Well, I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. She did not give Lu Miao a chance to speak at all and left in a hurry. Lin Bufan looked at the box in Luan Miao's hand and blinked. He had just tried every possible way, even offering an astronomical price, but couldn't get it done. And now, with their big boss appearing, it was resolved. Could it be that the woman had given them a fake? Boss, are you sure there's no problem with the item? Lin Bufan asked. Luan Miao opened the box, revealing a bone fragment about the size of half a palm. He lightly touched it with his fingertips and confirmed that it was indeed a 1,000-year tiger bone. Song Yin's haggard face flashed past his eyes. He pursed his lips slightly. Go and find out what happened to her recently. She must be in urgent need of money to put this item up for auction. She refused to sell it to them but still needed money. There must be something going on. Meanwhile, outside the auction house, a black Maybach slowly came to a stop. Gu Shiyu helped elder son out of the car. Mr. Gu, I'm really sorry. Last time, I troubled you to help me find someone. This time, I'll have to trouble you to accompany me on this trip. Gu Shiyan said, Elder son, you're too polite. It's what I should do. That 1,000-year-old tiger bone is really rare. There are likely quite a number of people who have their eyes on it. If I don't trouble you, I'm afraid that I won't be able to buy it, elder son muttered as he thought about getting the 1,000-year tiger bone soon. His footsteps became more agile and brisk. Who is it? The two of them entered the auction house's hall and coincidentally ran into the person in charge. When the person in charge saw Gu Shiyan, he quickly went forward and greeted him respectfully. Mr. Gill. Gu Shiyan looked up and sized up the haul. He asked directly, where is the seller who auctioned the tiger bone? I've already asked someone to contact her previously and said that she would wait for me in the hall. When the person in charge heard this, his heart skipped a beat. He was indeed the one who called Song Yin over. How would he know that this young master had already made an appointment with the seller to buy the tiger bones? If he had known earlier, even if he had 100 times the courage, he wouldn't have dared to interfere and introduce the seller to someone else. Seeing the person in charge's silence, Gu Shiyu narrowed his eyes slightly and said, the simple word sounded lazy, but it was very oppressive. The person in charge raised his hand and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He mustered up his courage and braced himself as he stammered. I'm sorry, Mr. Gu. That tiger bone was has already been bought. Bought it. We called half an hour ago, and the seller said she was waiting for us here. Elder son was anxious. Just now. The person in charge lowered his head and did not dare to look at Gu Shiyan. Gu Shiyan's eyes darkened. His staff had already informed the auction house in advance that he wanted to buy it, and the auction would definitely inform the other party in advance. Knowing well that it was what he wanted, someone still dared to snatch it. He's really curious to know who bought it. The icy chill in his voice terrified the person in charge almost to the point of tears. He didn't dare offend Mr. Gu, but young Master Lin was not someone to be trifled with either. And that woman referred to as boss by young Master Lin, who could command such respect from him, who knows what kind of formidable person she was. He was just a miserable working man. Why did he have to encounter such divine beings fighting each other? Gu Shiyan did not make another sound, but the coldness on his body became stronger and stronger. Even the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped a little. The hall that was bustling just now had quieted down. The person in charge was trembling with fear, and his legs could not help but go weak. Gritting his teeth, he closed his eyes and braced himself. It's young Master Lin. Gu Shiyan narrowed his eyes slightly. In Luo City, the surname Lin could still be called young Master Lin. There was only one person who could make this person in charge stutter. Lin Bufan. Yes. The person in charge trembled as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He apologized to Lin Bufan in his heart. Although he couldn't afford to offend either of them, Mr. Gu was more terrifying than Lin Bufan. Chapter 97. 97, Being Fought for Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. Being Fought for Again. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Although he couldn't afford to offend either of them, Mr. Gu was more terrifying than Lin Bufan. Seeing this, elder son said, forget it. I just heard that the 1,000-year-old tiger bone has a miraculous effect and wanted to buy it for research. It's not necessary. Although it was a pity that he had missed it out, it was not enough for Gu Shiyan to have a conflict with others because of this thing. Gu Shiyan raised his hand and pinched his forehead. If it were anyone else, he would never let this matter go. But this person was Lin Bufan. Lin Bufan was the one who found Master Mountain River, and all the communication between them and Master Mountain River was done by Lin Bufan. From a certain perspective, Lin Bufan had indirectly saved him. He was not a person who would repay kindness with enmity. He pursed his thin lips. Elder son, don't worry. I'll get someone to keep an eye on the 1,000-year-old tiger bone for you. 1,000-year tiger bone. Son, old dog, how dare you keep such a good thing just for yourself? An anxious voice came from the door. Elder son rolled his eyes at him. When old dog, do you dare to say that you're not here for the 1,000-year tiger bone? Of course, when there's such a valuable item, one would want to keep it for themselves. When old dog knew about the news and didn't even notify him to come. He turned his head and introduced Gu Shiyan. This was his good friend for many years and an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Professor Wen. Gu Shiyan spoke politely. Professor Wen was still thinking about the tiger bone. He hurriedly greeted him and looked anxiously at elder son's hand. Where's the tiger bone? It's too late. It's already been bought. Elder son snorted. Professor Wen was so angry that he was giving his thigh a big slap. The item had already been bought, so there was no other way. Fortunately, there were other rare medicines in today's auction. Although it was not as precious as the 1,000-year-old tiger bone, it was still very rare. Gu Shiyan had already booked the VIP room. The few of them walked towards the private room upstairs together. Just as they turned the corner of the corridor, Gu Shiyan saw a familiar figure walking towards them. A hint of astonishment flashed in his eyes, and he softly called out, "Meow meow." Unlike her usual attire, which was always the most low-key in ordinary school uniform, Wen Miao was wearing a white dress today. Her long, shiny, and silky black hair cascaded down behind her, with a small pearl hairpin adorning the side of her ear. If her beauty on regular days carried a sharpness, today she had an added touch of gentleness. The lights in the corridor created a circle of light around her, as if she was a fairy who had fallen from the 9 heavens to the mortal world. Lu Miao was speechless. Damn, how coincidental. She had just come out of the restroom, that's all. And yet, she ran into Gu Shiyan. She lifted her hand to touch her nose. I was bored at home, so I decided to come out for a stroll. A stroll that led her to an auction house. His little friend seemed to have more and more secrets. A smile flashed across Gu Shiyan's eyes. Since she did not want to say anything, he did not ask further. Together. Lu Miao had no choice but to leave Lin Bufan, who was still in the other room, and follow him. They sat down in the private room. Elder son smiled and said, "Little Lu Miao, we meet again." He had a good impression of this young lady who was quite talented in medicine. He had to fight hard for the matter of taking in a disciple. Elder Wen was stunned when he heard the name Lu Miao. Wait a minute. She pushed Elder Son away and looked at Lu Miao anxiously. Lu Miao. The Lu Miao who helped the Gu family's third young master to treat his illness with Chinese medicine at the central hospital. Lu Miao could not deny it even if she wanted to. Helplessly, she could only nod her head in the face of a few fiery gazes. It's me. Elder Wen was instantly excited. The last time he was in the hospital, he was attracted to Gu Ziheng's ward because of the smell of medicine. At that time, he was shocked by the prescription. However, because Gu Xingyu had left in a fit of anger, he did not bother to ask further. He had been staying in Luo City recently to wait for news from Shinqinghe. He wanted to meet Lu Miao and ask about the prescription. He did not expect to meet her here today. Of course, he did not expect that Lu Miao was such a young girl. He immediately asked her about the prescription. Medicinal formula. What prescription? When elder son heard these 2 words, he immediately pricked up his ears and leaned over. You old man, go away. Professor Wen pushed the man away, afraid that the precious prescription would be snatched away by the old man, so he refused to tell him. I'm sorry, Professor Wen. That prescription was passed down by my ancestors, not me. Lu Miao said directly. You're so young, but you're able to accurately control the fire and the correct method to trigger the best medicinal effects. Although Professor Wen felt a little regretful, he was more interested in Lu Miao than the prescription. He looked at her excitedly and asked, I wonder if you're interested in coming to Beijing with me to learn more about Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine was often despised by people because of its slow efficacy. That was because ordinary people could not fully exert the effects of Chinese medicine. Achieving 1/3 of the effect was already the limit. This was also the reason why Chinese medicine had gradually declined over the years. Lu Miao, on the other hand, was able to fully utilize the effects of the medicine. If she could thoroughly research everything she knew and apply it to all Chinese medicine across the country to increase the efficacy of Chinese's medicine, then there would be hope for the rise of Chinese medicine. When elder son heard this, he became anxious. He did not bother asking about the prescription anymore and directly pulled Professor Wen aside. Go away. I was the one who found Lu Miao first. It's me who wants to be his disciple. It's not your turn. He quickly turned to look at Lu Miao. Lu Miao, let me tell you, this old dog Wen has a terrible temper. He's always scolding people. His students were scolded every day. I'm different. I'm patient and gentle to my students. The welfare of our research institute is good. Professor Wen immediately blew his beard. Bullsh *T. I was the one who suggested taking in a disciple first. You're patient and gentle. Does your student agree with you? Little friend Lu, let me tell you, this old man's son is the one with the worst temper. These two old men had been rivals for decades, but they were also good friends. Now, in order to fight for Lu Miao, they were exposing each other's shortcomings and bragging shamelessly. Lu Miao did not even have the chance to interrupt. At the side, Gu Shiyan reached out to take the list of auction items from the table. He turned his body slightly and handed it to her. These are all the items for today's auction. See if there's anything you like. Lu Miao took it and flipped through it. She had already obtained the 1,000-year-old tiger bone. She had stayed behind to see if there were any other good things. However, she did not expect to meet Gu Shiyan here. Chapter 98. 98, Making Her Happy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. Making Her Happy. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. When Gu Shiyan was not paying attention, she sent a message to Lin Bufan, saying that she had something on and could not go over. She asked him to leave first and not wait for her. Lin Bufan had always listened to her words and didn't ask much. The auction downstairs soon began. The two old men argued with each other while not forgetting to pay attention to the things they liked. Lot number 12, Emperor Green Jade Bracelet. The jade material for this bracelet is exquisite, with abundant water content, and a beautifully bright and green color, making it a top-notch piece among Emperor Green jades. Starting price: 30 million. The large screen behind the exhibition booth immediately displayed the appearance of the bracelet. The translucent green bracelet appeared even more radiant on the enlarged screen. In front of the box seats on the upper level, there was a railing instead of a wall, allowing a direct view of the hall below. Luo Miao glanced up at the bracelet on the screen, couldn't help but take another look, and then lowered his eyes again, continuing to boredly flip through the auction item list in his hand. Room 15, bidder offers 31 million. Do we have a higher bid? Bidder number 3 offers 35 million. The jade bracelet quickly rose to 50 million as the guests downstairs kept raising their placards. Are there any higher bids? The MC asked on the stage. As the saying goes, people nurture jade for 3 years, and jade nurtures people for a lifetime, especially when it comes to top-quality jade like this emerald. The host skillfully enticed and introduced the various advantages of the bracelet, hoping to fetch a higher price. However, the rest of the people in the hall remained silent. After all, while the jade was indeed excellent, a bracelet was nothing more than a decorative item. Not everyone was willing to spend so much money to please a woman. 50 million going once, 50 million going twice. Just as everyone thought the host's small wooden hammer was about to come down and seal the deal, the entire room suddenly gasped. Luo Miao raised his head curiously and looked down at the commotion. He saw a light suddenly lit up in the top left corner of the large screen downstairs, with a small LED screen above it displaying the number 6. Upon seeing this, the host immediately stopped the action of bringing down the hammer and excitedly shouted, "Room number 6, light sky lantern. Light sky lantern." Luo Miao raised an eyebrow in slight surprise. The so-called sky lantern meant that the entire box had been privately reserved. Regardless of the item being auctioned or the price offered by others, the person who reserved the box would directly purchase it. Even if you deliberately tricked him and offered 100 million, he would have to take out 100 million to buy the item. Every time a person lit a lantern, he would be prepared to lose half of his family property. In ancient times, this method was mostly used by the royal nobles to pick up girls. Now, very few people would do this. Unless this person had enough background and confidence, no one would dare to trick him. Of course, the most important thing was to have enough money. Once the sky lantern was lit, there was no turning back. Otherwise, the person would be blacklisted from the entire auction industry. Luo Miao was curious. Who could it be that had a screw in his head and was willing to reserve the entire box just to impress a wealthy woman? As the host's voice fell, an antique lantern slowly rose and hung in the upper left corner of their private box. Lu Miao was speechless. She was speechless, very speechless. Elder son and Professor Wen would never light a lantern, and neither did she. So the person with a screw in his head was. She turned her head to look at Gu Shiyan, who was at the side, and saw that his well-defined fingers had just moved away from a small button beside the armrest of the chair. Seeing her glance, he nonchalantly said, "If you want it, go ahead." Lu Miao wore a puzzled expression. When did I say I liked it? Looking at Gu Shiyan's confident demeanor, she almost thought she had suffered temporary amnesia just now. You glanced at it for a moment. Gu Shiyan said with a self-assured tone. This is absolutely outrageous. Just because I looked at it for a moment among the crowd. What kind of mind-boggling straight male thinking is this? She looked at it for a moment only because the jade bracelet she saw was different from what ordinary people would see. Within that jade, there was a vibrant aura, which was rare in this era of declining spiritual energy. It didn't mean she liked it and wanted to buy it. Gu Shiyun didn't disclose his identity. He clearly didn't care whether others deliberately raised the bid or not. There are already people downstairs who have started the bidding. Room number 23 bids 55 million. Room number 42 has bid 60 million. Gu Shiyun remained immovable, sitting there calmly and leisurely sipping his tea. It seemed as if the bidding frenzy below had nothing to do with him. The price of the bracelet quickly reached 80 million, and no one bid higher. Although the people in the private box didn't reveal their identities, anyone daring to reserve the box at an auction was definitely not an ordinary person. 80 million was already a significant premium, but it should still be within the other party's acceptable range. Going higher would be outrageous. If they truly angered that person and faced potential retaliation in private, they couldn't afford it. The host asked 3 times and was about to bring down the hammer when the large screen suddenly lit up with another lantern. L.C. The number 9 slowly appeared. Room number 9, Sky Lantern. The sound of gasps filled the hall. Sky lanterns were already rare, but today there were 2 people simultaneously reserving the box. It was an extremely rare occurrence. The 2 of them lit the lanterns at the same time, and the item that was offered by the higher bidder would belong to the other party. The other party quickly began to bid. Guest in room 9 has bid 100 million. The host's voice began to tremble. The higher the bid, the higher her commission. If it reached 1 billion, she would break the company's record for the highest auction price this year. Promotion and a raise would be guaranteed. Gu Shiyun took a sip of tea, placed the tea bowl down, and raised the bidding device, directly pressing a number. Room 6, guest bids 130 million. This was a straightforward increase in price. The audience below the stage did not even know how to gasp. One bid was 30 million. 30 million. Boss, this is real money, not game points. If you raise the price so easily, they will think that it's really easy to make money. The host was so happy that she felt like he was floating. The light in box number 9 lit up again, indicating a bid of 150 million. In terms of bidding, they were equally relentless. Without hesitation, Gu Shiyun pressed the button once more, offering 180 million. A heart's desire is priceless. Any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. In the past, he only knew how to make money, but he had no desire to spend money. Earning money felt like a daily task to him. But now, he had someone he wanted to spend money on. If she liked it, then no amount of money was too much. Box number 9 refused to back down, directly offering 2 billion. The audience was already numb to their actions of raising the bid by tens of millions every time they made a move. What was the disparity of the world? This was it. Chapter 99. 99, Protecting Her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. Protecting Her. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. In the private room, Elder Sun and Professor Wen were still focused on dissing each other, as if they did not think much of Gu Shiyun's money-burning behavior. Gu Shiyun's expression remained the same. He was about to raise his hand and press the button to increase the price again when his hand was suddenly grabbed by someone, preventing him from pressing it. Lowering his head, he saw a slender and fair hand grabbing him. He looked up at Lu Miao. "What's wrong?" Lu Miao did not know why, but she could see a trace of grievance in Mr. Gu's deep eyes, as if he was not allowed to spend money to buy things. She changed her words. "I already have a bracelet. I don't like that jade bracelet. I like this one more." Her jade-like fingertips tapping on the list of items beside her. Gu Shiyun looked at the silver-white bracelet on Lu Miao's wrist. He could not tell what material it was made of, but Lu Miao seemed to treasure it very much and had always worn it. He looked down at her fingertips and saw a white jade pendant with 2 butterflies. It was not as good as the jade bracelet, but it was not bad either. He nodded. "All right. Don't light the lanterns again." "All right." Professor Wen and Elder Sun, who were forced to watch their lovely interactions, were speechless. "Please spare the old folks, all right. Can't wait to turn this lovely scene off." The host downstairs shouted 3 times and dropped the wooden hammer in her hand at the price of 2 billion. At the same time, from nearby room number 9, the sound of a vase and teacup shattering suddenly echoed. A barely perceptible smile tugged at the corner of Luo Miao's lips. Once the price of 2 billion was announced as the highest bid, the rest of the auction seemed dull and uninspiring. In reality, the price of 2 billion far exceeded the value of the jade bracelet, but the person who fell into the trap made it worth it. The auction quickly came to an end. The staff of the auction house personally delivered the items they had bid for. Gu Shiyun took out a black card and paid. The pair of butterfly jade pendants were only worth a few million, and Gu Shiyun was dissatisfied with the price, as if he was about to bid for all the jade items in the venue. Helpless, Luo Miao casually pointed out a few unattractive and inconspicuous pieces of jadeite stones before he could win the bid. Not many people understood these things, and most of it was a gamble. It was common for people to spend tens of millions of dollars to buy a piece of waste rock. Since Lu Miao wanted it, Gu Shiyun did not care if those stones were worth it. This was the first time Lu Miao had asked him for something, so he bought it without hesitation. A service staff came in and asked Gu Shiyun if he wanted to cut the raw stone open on the spot. Gu Shiyun turned to look at Lu Miao. There were a total of 6 stones, and Lu Miao pointed to 4 of the bigger ones. One was an exquisite top-grade green, another was a top-quality glassy variety, and the remaining 2, although slightly impure, were still quite good. There wasn't a single empty stone. This level of accuracy was something even the veteran big shots in the rough stone industry couldn't achieve after years of immersion. Moreover, the value of just that exquisite top-grade green stone alone exceeded the purchase price by tens of times. Gu Shiyun had won big in this auction. As soon as the rough stones were cut open, someone immediately approached the service staff members, inquiring if they could buy the stones. The price was negotiable. Lu Miao rejected her directly and said to Gu Shiyun, "Jade nourishes people. Take the exquisite green and glassy variety back and have someone make 2 sets of jewelry for Aunt Shen. The remaining scraps can be made into some safety charms or similar items for Jinsi and Auntie Xiao." Gu Shiyun nodded and his gaze still fixed on her. Lu Miao paused for a moment. "The other 2 pieces have average jade quality. Find a skilled sculptor to carve 2 qilins and place them in the southeast corner of the Gu family's living room for home protection." Gu Shiyun was still staring. Lu Miao picked up the 2 pieces that he had not cut open and gave them to Professor Wen and Elder Sunday. "These 2 are medicinal king stones. They aren't valuable, but they can be used medicinally. I have no use for them personally, and I hope you don't mind taking them." The 2 old men didn't expect to receive a share, and they were so happy that they couldn't contain themselves. They quickly reached out to take the stones. "We don't mind at all, not at all." Then the 2 of them started arguing again, this time about which stone was bigger and who should have which piece. Gu Shiyun continued to look at Lu Miao. Lu Miao blinked her eyes. There was nothing else. The 6 pieces had all been distributed. She wondered if it was her imagination, but she seemed to detect a hint of resentment in Mr. Gu's eyes. After thinking for a moment, she hesitantly handed him the pair of butterfly jade pendants. "This, for you." Mr. Gu looked satisfied, accepting them into his hands. Finally, he stopped staring. Lu Miao was speechless. So, was he not happy because she had given something to someone else before giving it to him? When did the powerful and elegant second Mr. Gu become so childish? Elder Sun and Professor Wen finally finished fighting over the ownership of the Medicine King stone. Although they didn't get the tiger bone this time, they were in a good mood. The more they looked at Lu Miao, the happier they felt. She was a well-behaved and capable young girl who also cared for the elderly. Who wouldn't want such a disciple? "The last time we went to the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant, it felt pretty good," Elder Sun said with a smile. Professor Wen rolled his eyes at him and was about to speak. But before he could, the door of the private box was forcefully kicked open from the outside. Without even glancing, the person who rushed into the room immediately started cursing angrily. "What the f***ck? I want to see who the hell has the balls to intentionally inflate the bracelet price to 200 million and scam me." Lu Miao raised his eyebrows and said bluntly, "The one who strikes first is the cheapest. Mr. Jean, you were the one who followed us and reserved the box, trying to raise the price to scam us. The 200 million bid was your own doing. If you keep talking like this, I can sue you for spreading rumors and slander." That's right, the guest in room 9 was Jean Chen. She had already figured it out when he lit the sky lantern. That's why she allowed Gu Shiyun to freely increase the bid at the beginning and stopped him at the last moment. Protecting her own people was her top priority. Wanted to scam the people around her. Dream on. However, even she herself didn't realize that Gu Shiyun had already been placed in the category of her own people. This was the first time Gu Shiyun had seen Luo Miao so sharp-tongued and assertive, showing her true colors. The little girl's thin body blocked in front of him, charging forward to protect him. For so many years, he had been the pillar of the Gu family, protecting his mother, younger siblings, and everything in the family. He had long been used to bearing all the responsibilities himself. This was the first time someone stood in front of him. The feeling of being protected by others seemed pretty good. Jean Chen was furious and enraged. He believed that they had deliberately set him up, making him think they would definitely buy the item, then engaging in a bidding war with him, only to back out and leave him with the bill. With a gnashing of his teeth, he glared at Lu Miao and said, it was you who tricked me, right? Knowing my identity, yet daring to intentionally deceive me. I think you're tired of living. He was used to being domineering in the capital city and had never suffered such a big loss before. He approached her, raising his hand as if he was about to attack. Chapter 100. 100, Rage for a Beauty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. Rage for a Beauty. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Luo Miao smirked, her fingertips twitching, preparing to make a move. A clearly defined large hand reached out from the side and grabbed Jean Chen's hand directly. With his hand restrained, Jean Chen's anger intensified instantly. He turned his head and began to curse, "Who dares to meddle in this? I'll beat you all together." Before the word beat could leave his mouth, he saw the ice-cold gaze of Gu Shiyun right in front of him. The word froze in his throat, and his entire body involuntarily trembled. 5 years ago, when he attended a banquet with his father, he had seen Gu Shiyun. That year, Gu Yan was only 19 years old and had yet to gain a firm foothold in the Gu Corporation. During the banquet, someone deliberately replaced champagne with strong alcohol and approached him, provoking him, intending to use this opportunity to suppress how everyone around them watched silently, wanting to see how he would handle the situation before deciding whether or not to take action against him. Gu Shiyun reached out and took the glass, as if he hadn't noticed the smell at all. He didn't even blink as he raised the glass and downed its contents in one go. But later, that person suffered even worse. Gu Shiyun orchestrated a situation where the person made a mistake in front of an important figure, and as self-punishment, the person drank an entire bottle of alcohol. He immediately spat out blood on the spot and almost lost his life. Gu Shiyun endured the situation until he had finished dealing with the person before finally going to the hospital. Not long after that, that person's company went bankrupt, and that person committed suicide by jumping off a building because of debt problems. No one knew who was behind this. However, Gu Shiyun became famous because of this battle and completely gained a foothold. Although Gu Shiyun's methods became more ruthless and brilliant with time, he still remembered this incident vividly after so many years. This was a person who could be ruthless to others and to himself. No one could provoke Gu Shiyun. This concept was deeply engraved into his bones. When he entered the room earlier, he was filled with anger over being swindled out of 2 billion, and he didn't have the mood to carefully observe his surroundings. He only noticed Luo Miao in the middle and completely overlooked Gu Shiyun beside her. Otherwise, even if he were given 100 times more courage, he wouldn't dare to be so bold in front of Gu Shiyun. However, in just an instant, cold sweat started forming on his forehead and back. "Me, Mr. Gill." Gu Shiyun glanced at him indifferently. "It's me. Do you have an opinion?" "No, absolutely not." Jean Chen shook his head in fright. How could he dare to have any objections to this ruthless person? "Mr. Gu, I'm sorry. I was impulsive before. I'll get someone to send the bracelet over to you now." Many people would be afraid of his father's position as the mayor, but it definitely did not include Gu Shiyun. As the president's honored guest, if Gu Shiyun really wanted to do something to their family, the Jin family would not even have any room to resist. Seeing Lu Miao yawning a little out of boredom, Gu Shiyun could not help but smile. However, the words that came out of his mouth were frighteningly cold. "What did you say just now?" "1 slap for every word you said." Jean Chen gritted his teeth and raised his hand to slap his own face without hesitation. After a dozen slaps, before he could finish, his once handsome face had become almost swollen like a pig's head. There was no choice but for him to be ruthless towards himself to have a chance of satisfying Gu Shiyun and not implicate his father and the Jin family. Before Jean Chen could finish, Gu Shiyun, accompanied by Lu Miao, Professor Wan, and elder son, left. Even so, Jean Chen didn't dare to stop there. He counted the number of slaps he should receive before finally stopping. On the other side, after leaving the auction house, elder son said that he wanted to go to the Heavenly Fragrance Tower, so the few of them went together. At the dining table, the two old men were using all kinds of martial arts to attract Lu Miao to be their disciple. Lu Miao was helpless. "I'm really sorry. I don't have any other thoughts for the time being other than going to school." The two of them asked a few more questions unwillingly. After confirming that she really did not have such thoughts, they had no choice but to give up on this plan for the time being. However, when they were leaving after dinner, Professor Wen still slipped Lu Miao's name card and elder son was not paying attention. Elder son had secretly gotten Lu Miao's contact information from Gu Shiyan. Clearly, neither of them had given up completely. Lu Miao was also helpless. Gu Shiyan laughed softly. Elder son and Professor Wen are both top academicians in the country. They are well known both at home and abroad. Regardless of whether or not you acknowledge a master, the cooperation of the prescription will not be detrimental to you. Lu Miao shook her head. It's extremely complicated to brew the prescription. It's impossible for the current machines to do it. Moreover, in order to achieve the effect they wanted, they still needed some materials that were not on the prescription. They were not suitable for mass production. Gu Shiyan thought of what Auntie Xiao had said and lowered his eyelids slightly. He looked at her fingers for a long time before he acknowledged her. Ever since he was born, this was the first time Mr. Gu had his own selfish motives. He knew that Lu Miao wasn't interested in selling medicine. He only suggested this because he didn't want Lu Miao to hurt herself again in order to cure someone else. Back at Lingyue Manor. Surprisingly, Gu Jinsi had not returned yet. This guy had left early in the morning and still hadn't come back, leaving Lu Miao curious about what he was up to. However, she quickly found out. The elimination round of the car racing championship had already ended, and the final was scheduled for Sunday. Gu Jinsi had returned home late last night and left again early in the morning, full of excitement. After breakfast and after Gu Shiyan had also left, Lu Miao went out with her things. She found a place to change her clothes and spent some time in front of the mirror. Finally, she put on her hat, mask, and sunglasses and headed to the arena. After 2 days of build-up, the crowd at the racecourse had grown larger. The fans in the audience not only had red Q-shaped stickers on their faces and arms, but they also made numerous red flags and red balloons with the logo. Some even took screenshots from the live broadcast and made support posters and flower walls. The support for her surpassed that of many famous celebrities. The entire racecourse had turned into a sea of red. The media reporters on site referred to Q as the top streamer in the racing world during the live broadcast. When Lu Miao appeared, as usual, she wore a hat, sunglasses, and mask, completely concealing her face. But the fans didn't mind at all. Some even found beauty in a single strand of her hair. Even if you couldn't see her face, a single glance was enough to captivate. The cheers of the fans in the audience grew louder, with more and more voices chanting for her. Immediately, the other contestants came over to greet her. Lu Miao looked around but did not see Jin Chen. She was wondering if he had already withdrawn from the competition. Suddenly, a series of thuds came from above. The loud voice directly suppressed the voices of the fans in the stadium. Everyone subconsciously looked up in the direction of the voice.